Well, welcome to the Good Business Podcast. Let's find out who I'm speaking to today.
It's Scott Murray, and I'm the founder of Cru Holdings, which has some businesses in the area in the hospitality and the travel sectors.
Well, Scott, thanks for joining us. We believe that people are at the heart of good business, so we'd like to hear a bit more about you yourself. Well, tell us about your entrepreneurial journey. How did you end up where you are just now?
Ever since I was younger, when I was 14, I used to work in the kitchen, and the guy I used to work for, a really nice guy, and he had a Range Rover, and I remember he used to take us back from the house in it, and I remember looking at him and thinking, I want a Range Rover. And the question I asked myself was, what do I need to do to be able to get that Range Rover? And from that point I decided, well, I need to go out and earn money, and I need to, and that's kind of, in the very early days, that was kind of how it started. And I had my first business when I was kind of 15, and then started another business, and then from there it kind of grew to where we are today.
Mm-hmm. So obviously that vision of being able to own the Range Rover, which visualising something you want and driving you towards that is taking you a great step on the way there. But is there a person that in your career that's influenced you in terms of helping you to get where you are today?
I wouldn't say there's a single person that's kind of. There's different people in different areas of different industries, different businesses, and there's certain traits in these people that you look at, and you maybe aspire to be more like them in that way. So I wouldn't say there's one particular person, but there probably have been people throughout my journey, if you like, where I've taken positive influence from. So
there's lots of influences there, as you've just said, and you also said that being able to picture that ownership of that car was something that would give you a good start. Do you have a kind of from there? Have you developed kind of a process of having long-term goals for what you want to follow, or do you find you just kind of seize opportunities as they come along, or is it a bit of both, as I might suspect?
I always said I wanted to be in a position where I could retire when I hit 45. That was my long-term goal. And as you slowly approach that, not so slowly now, but as you approach that number, you do start thinking, well, because 45 was so far away that that was fine. That was whereas now, you're kind of looking to the future. What do you want to do? And I still think I'd like to be in the position. I don't think I'll ever retire, but I want to be financially secure by the time I'm 45. And at that point, my goal or my plan really is to kind of start trying to help other people in business, and I can spend the next 20 years doing that sort of thing without having to worry about am I going to have money coming in. That's my goal, short term and long term.
So to foster other people and make sure they've got the opportunities that can build a kind of cumulative benefit for everybody. You're obviously really driven. Where does that come from?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't like procrastination. I like to just kind of do things, and if something needs done, I don't like seeing something. I'd rather it was just done. And that's pretty much it, really. I don't think there's anything more to it than that. It's just I don't like seeing, if I've got an idea or something I want to do, why think about it, and why kind of throw it about for 6 months. Why not just do it and see how you get on? It might work, it might not work, but at least rather than what ifs. And I don't like that uncertainty.
Yeah, but you don't like uncertainty, but obviously clearly you're willing to take some risks in terms of what you want to do. You've talked a bit about about how you are with it. What do you feel are the qualities of a successful entrepreneur?
I think risk taking is the one, but is the big one. You've got to believe in yourself that you can. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to make mistakes, as long as I learn from them. And I think as long as you're willing to take, it doesn't matter what situation you're in. There's always going to be a positive, and as long as you can take that positive and move forward with it, and then perhaps do something else with this new positive knowledge that you've gained, then that's, I suppose, what keeps an entrepreneur kind of going. That's the cycle. Things will inevitably fail, and if that scares you, then it's probably not something that that's probably not the route you want to go down. Is maybe you look for a safer career, but I think fear of failure is just something that no fear of failure, I suppose, is the biggest
Well,
driver.
that kind of speculation has led you to have quite a number of businesses. How many businesses do you currently have in your portfolio? Not including the ones you've helped with other people.
So we've got 12,
Mhm.
I think, is the current number.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got 12 companies at the moment.
So I'm sure they keep you busy all the time. In fact, I know they would. How do you balance the different demands from all those businesses?
I think the traits when you are in business and you do like to take risks and you do like to try new things is that you are inherently, you've got lack of, you're easily distracted.
Yeah.
So I think being able to jump from one to the other really suits my personality because I couldn't do one thing for longer than a set level of time. So if I had to do the same thing every day, in, day out, it just wouldn't work. So the idea of having all these businesses and you can go in and on Monday there might be a problem over here that you can help fix, and there might be an opportunity over here, and that to me is just that in my head that's quite a nice calm way.
So actually being busy, being kind of doing all these different things keeps you calmer than if you were just sitting waiting for things.
Devil's idle hands are the
idle hands
devil's.
So you like to be busy with that. But being busy is only the half of it, because you also sit on 3 non-profit charity boards. How important are those to you?
Well, very. I mean, I joined each of them because I wanted to try and give something back.
Do you want to tell us what they are?
Yeah, so I'm a trustee of Mikey's Line, which is obviously, so during, being largely in the hospitality industry, mental health is a huge concern a lot of the time. The access to alcohol, drugs, late nights, that kind of atmosphere. So it does take its toll. So I wanted to be able to understand more so that we could then support our own staff. And so I was asked if I would join the board, and I did. And the next one would be Highland Blindcraft, which again they were looking for non-execs, and I'm now the chair of that organisation. Again, it's about trying to kind of put a more corporate structure in place to try and help. The business has been going for 170 odd years. It's trying to make sure it's safe and that. But so you've got that part there, which is trying to help them. But what I found on the back of that is the people that you meet and the experiences you get actually put you in really good stead. So there's a benefit I never actually realised of doing it, where now I'm learning things that I didn't know, which is obviously a great benefit.
And the other board that you were on, you said Blindcraft. And
so Blindcraft, Mikey's Line, then you've got Highlands and Islands Society for Blind People, which is kind of overarching that runs Blindcraft, and then Sight Action. So it's all kind of for providing employment opportunities for visually impaired.
And it's really interesting what you were saying there about the fact that doing that work, taking time out of your own life to help these charities, be on the board and help them strategically, you found that's got a circular benefit that comes back to you.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got boards of people that you maybe wouldn't come across in your normal day to day. They're maybe not part of your network, but then you observe how they make decisions or how they justify certain things, and then you realise actually there's different ways of thinking, and that's just it's great to have in the arsenal.
So giving back's actually been a business benefit for you as well. So you obviously got very strong values there in terms of helping these organisations. What are the values and principles that flow through all of your businesses, would you say?
So we did an exercise about 5 years ago where we said, right, what do we stand for as a business? And we kind of came up with the core values. And so people being one of the big ones, whether it's customers, suppliers, or our own teams, but we need to make sure that they're respected and valued. We've got innovation is at the heart, so we always want to make sure we're a step ahead. We don't want to do things the way everybody else does, and we always want to have our own kind of take. Quality, we'll always provide the best quality we can. value being another one. That doesn't mean cheap, it just means that whatever you're paying, you're getting
Yeah.
value for that. And profit, obviously, we're a business, we have to profit, but it's important that we reinvest that in our teams and our properties and things like that as well. So we kind of came up with that, and then we every member of staff that now comes is trained in that. They understand that, and to the point now, any piece of paperwork in the business, so whether we're doing a personal development review, whether we're looking at onboarding a new supplier, we will always take it back to the core values and do they align, and if they don't, then that's maybe not the route we want to go down.
It's interesting because we're doing this recording in Murray Travel, one of your businesses, and when you come in through the door, you can feel that in the way the presentation of the office is, the way the people are working away. So that kind of shines through that work that you've done with people. Just talking a bit about your portfolio of businesses, as we've discussed, it's growing at pace, but tell us a bit more about what's happening for you just now.
I suppose
What's next for Murray Travel and Cru Holdings?
So, travel-wise, obviously, post-COVID, I think, as you know, right now with airlines and airports, and I think the pre-pandemic levels of passenger numbers were expected. Tail end of 24, that was the prediction. And the truth is we've hit it already, globally, not just in the UK, not just locally, but globally, those passenger numbers are pre-pandemic. And that's created a whole loads of problems, but it's also created loads of opportunity as well.
Right.
So, we want to continue to seize that opportunity. We came out of the pandemic we started the pandemic with 3 members of staff in 1 branch. We're now up to 3 branches, 17 members of staff, with another branch in the offing for the end of the year, and potentially a 5th one spring next year. So we're, as long as numbers continue to grow, then that's what we'll look to try and service that demand as much as we can.
You're talking there, and you have been talking about innovation. And obviously you're staying ahead by doing different things. That's what you're saying. You didn't want to do the same as everybody else. How big a role does innovation play in the way you run and set up your businesses?
Huge. It is. When we're setting a business up, it's probably the most important one, because we want to. You have to have that unique selling point. You have. You can do the same as the guy next to you or the girl next to you, but unless you're doing something different, it's never going to be a long-term thing.
It's diminishing returns.
Yeah. So you look at Scotch and Rye being one of our particularly innovative pubs. When we opened that, nobody was doing the kind of prohibition thing. Nobody was doing the industrial kind of decor. So even the food, nobody was doing it the way it was being done. So it's a huge risk. Really terrible site historically. It was a failed site several times over. So we knew that to make it work, we had to do something that was just completely game-changing. And at the time, it was. But what we've seen is year on year, there's growth in that site, and it's award-winning. It's become recognised not just in the UK, but people outside the UK that we meet, trade people have heard of it, and that you wouldn't be able to do that had we not gone in and tried to make sure that it was ahead of the curve.
And you've obviously been able to do that. As I said, we're in Murray Travel here, and said you can feel the difference when you come in. We've just been talking about Scotch and Rye there. How do you decide the mission or values for each of the different businesses? What the individual take, the USP, how do you decide on that?
So a lot of the time, we'll have a very kind of rough framework. So with Scotch and Rye, it was very much, we wanted a prohibition-esque, we wanted to kind of mimic 1920s Chicago, New York, that kind of whole feeling, without being a theme pub. We wanted to try and capture that. But we also wanted to do, really good, simple food. We didn't want to kind of go pretentious, but we wanted to pair that with quite high-end drinks, which again it shouldn't work. The concept just shouldn't work. We took in, for being in the heart of whiskey country, we started taking Japanese, Indian kind of whiskies, really good quality international whiskies, and play around with them as well. And that's the kind of, that's the rough framework of what we have, and then the rest comes from the personality of the staff, and we really encourage the management teams to put their own shine on it. So when a manager leaves and a new manager starts, it will shift, because I think it's really important for I think for the customer to have a genuine experience, I think that the guys that are working there serving the customers, they have to really buy into it, and they have to be able to express themselves, and that's very much, you know. So you take Bar One. Bar One's been open 13 years this month, but it's changed personality. The quality's always been there. The value for money's always been there. You know, the core value's always been there, but the actual the personality has shifted as the teams shift.
And you're talking about your teams there and the changes. How important is it that your teams are invested in the vision that you have for the business?
Yeah, we don't want people. Well, people that you've always got two types of employee, and one that will turn up, do a job, and go home, and that's fine. You know, students home from, you know, they're not going to be invested in something. They're looking for a job to fund, you know, their next term at uni or whatever it may be, and that's absolutely fine. And then you've got your kind of full timers, your more kind of longer term staff. And you don't want them to be people that just want to come and go. You want them to be invested, because if they're invested, they're looking out for your interests. They're going to go above and beyond with customers. That's going to be a natural trait. You're not going to have to train that. You're not going to have to manage that. That will come naturally if they're invested in the project.
So tell us something interesting that people wouldn't necessarily know about Murray Travel or Cru Holdings.
People wouldn't know. Well, Murray Travel, when it was set up, was never supposed to be. It was never really supposed to be what it is. It was set up as a way for me and my wife to spend, or it was my wife at the time, but it was a way for us to spend more time together. And it was only really supposed to be a kind of sideline that covered, you know, what she was losing by leaving her other job. It was never ever supposed to be. There was never a vision for what it is now.
And that developed over a period of time in the way that you're...
Yeah. Again, we've always had the ethos that if you look after the customers, the money, the profit will come down the line, and we've always kind of believed that, and we've always sometimes if something goes wrong, you know, it'll come out of our pocket to put it right, because that's the right thing to do for the customer. Yeah. But you know, you look at that one booking, you might have lost a couple of £100 on it because you've had to. But if that customer comes back 10 times, you're going to get that back. So that I don't think is necessarily, certainly when we started in 2014, I don't think that was something you could find locally to the level we were doing it. So I think that's allowed us to develop and allowed us to increase quite naturally, without having to do huge marketing, without having to, you know, it's just been a steady increase.
For you, looking after the customer in that way, making sure they're the focal point of your business, it would be a completely natural thing. Is that a piece of advice you'd give to any other businesses, make them the focal point?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just people. I say whether it's customer, staff, or your suppliers. I think, you know, one thing I think lockdown showed us, it showed people in their true colours, and what I found in the Highlands especially was really encouraging is that people that were professional enemies or whatever before, they started to come together to really help each other out. And you know, I think you look after people and they will be loyal, and it's not just looking after people saying, well, we're going to pay you this. You have to actually look after people. And if you do look after, you know, we've had customers who have, you know, had to cancel holidays because of poor health, and you know, you'll send them a bunch of flowers, not because you know they're never going to take another holiday again, but it's the right thing to do. And that's the way we're kind of wired, and I just think that's the way business should be done.
So you're winning friends and influencing people by just being nice.
Well, it costs nothing to be nice.
But that brings me on neatly to marketing. It's crucial to any business, but none more so in economic times that are a bit more challenging. How do you decide how to market your business?
I mean, we review each business on a weekly basis, so we can see where things are maybe falling off or where things are performing strongly, and we'll quite quickly react and put a plan in place to kind of try and bolster that. Or if it's something that's performing particularly well, we'll come and replicate that across other sites or other businesses, and that's kind of how we do it. We obviously, you know, we know what's happening over the next 12 months, we have our marketing plans and everything like that, you know, as any business does, but a lot of it is just constantly reviewing the operation and just reacting to any opportunities within that.
Your flexibility has come through a number of times in the conversation about that ability to seize an opportunity and so forth. And you mentioned like a 12-month plan. Do you have a kind of longer vision, or is that something you prefer just to develop as you go along? I think you talked about the way you work earlier, which lent itself to kind of being involved in lots of different things. Is that more your approach?
Yeah, I mean, we're always on the lookout for an opportunity, always. And if the opportunity is right and the time's right, and obviously the price is right, then we'll take it. And that doesn't have to be necessarily. We've done things in the past that aren't within our kind of core market. Some of it's been successful, some of it hasn't. But if there's an opportunity, we will kind of take it. I think at the moment, I'm very much of the opinion that the next 12 to 18 months are going to be they could be tough. They certainly can be very uncertain. So at the moment, I think I'm trying to convince myself to keep the powder dry and let's just kind of concentrate on what we have. But sometimes temptation does get put.
You feel forced to kind of invest in that. We're talking about difficult times, and obviously we've just come through a pandemic, as you referred to a number of times. It forced a lot of changes in the workplace, and you talked about the fact that you had the business in terms of the branches was smaller in the past and you had fewer employees, and you've grown through that. The hospitality and travel sectors in particular have faced real challenges. What did this period of time force you to do, or what did it really make you think about concentrating on?
I think for me it was more, I've always been quite hands-on in the business, and it forced me to step back, and we used the opportunity to kind of look at each area of the business, whether it's employees, whether it's software, and we went through it. I mean, we had long enough, right? So we kind of went through each part.
Was that a benefit to you, actually getting that a wee bit of downtime to?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, there was, like you say, I can't sit still, so we needed to do something. So, what are you going to do? Sat in the house, you're not allowed to leave. Okay, well, let's try and find things to do. So there was quite a good excuse to kind of go through. We knew it had to be done anyway, but it was one of those things that you put off. And this was a really good opportunity for us to say, right, let's go back to square one and rebuild and tweak and try and get something so that when we do come out of this in 3 months, which we thought it was going to be, then we can hit the ground running. That's how we did it.
And despite those challenges, you've increased your hospitality portfolio. You must have real faith that the sector is going to stabilise and move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're fortunate. The Highlands, the Highlands at the moment is trending the rest of Scotland and many parts of the UK. We've got great inbound tourism, which is increasing. I mean, the number of cruise ships, the number of coaches coming into the city so there is demand in the Highlands. So, and there will be for a long time to come, because you've got the renewable energies. You look at trying to buy a house at the moment. Everybody's coming in. So these people need fed, they need watered. And hospitality venues are shutting down, so the ones that are left are going to pick up that trade. So I think certainly April to October, I think fine. I think the winter's going to be the telling part, November through to March, I think could be tough. But I think on the whole, as long as we can do the right job in the summer, that should be enough to see us through.
So, and how's the pandemic changed your thinking about engaging with customers online? What impact has there been connecting with your customers online on your business?
I wouldn't say it's been hugely impactful. We always had quite a heavy online presence before. Anyway, we did obviously all the social media. That's all managed, so that we're quite heavy on it anyway. I wouldn't say there's been a huge impact. Obviously now we are able as a group of businesses to work together remotely and online, and that side of things I think has been huge, because it used to be WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, whereas now you can actually do it through a single platform, and you can keep notes and meeting, and it keeps everybody connected, which I think is really good. So that's probably the one kind of positive impact in terms of kind of technology, certainly.
Looking at your personal biography on the LinkedIn system just now, you mention about having the satisfaction you've got from helping employees colleagues develop into their own businesses and grow themselves as entrepreneurs. You said that gives you a great deal of satisfaction. That's something that's really important to the Good Business podcast, and because we want to talk about good business. How do you support team members to thrive and to develop their own ways forward?
We've kind of got an all-you-can-eat training policy. That's what we call it. So, if somebody wants to learn, then we'll support that 100%. So, we've got the girl who now heads up our marketing team. She used to work in travel. She joined the team 3 months before the pandemic. So we gave her the opportunity to reskill into digital marketing. She took that and we've developed her. She's now doing her management qualification on the back of that, and she'll be, once she finishes that, she'll have a kind of a senior position within the business. Our other managers, again, it's as much training and development as you want. If cocktails are your thing and you want to do competitions, we'll support that so that we'll take you down to the competitions and you can learn how it works. And then we have external training bodies that come in as well, and we never say no to a training opportunity for anybody. And I think that's the main thing, because the more they train, the more knowledge they have, the more confident they are, and the better they're going to be for the customers.
Following that forward, what would you say to young people who want to start out with a career as an entrepreneur, following your footsteps? What would you say to them?
I would probably say to think of it as a career would be, without sounding too kind of, it's more of a way of life. It's not a career. You can't say, with a career, you've got a path, I think. So you know that, that's my next level, and then I retire. That's not being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is up and down. You're going to have good years, you're going to have bad years, you're going to have highs, you're going to have lows, and at no point have you got any guarantees. And I think as long as you're comfortable with that, and you have to realise that is the reality, and there have been years in the business where I've taken home less than people I'm employing because it's been a bad year, and you've got to take the rough with the smooth. It's not all Instagram. Here's my Lamborghini. Here's the yacht in Marbella. It's not. That's not the reality of it. The reality is long hours, hard work, low pay, until you get to a point, and then hopefully, and then a pandemic comes, and then a recession comes. So you've got to be prepared for that. That's my one piece. People's views that you're talking about, that challenge for entrepreneurs when things are good and bad, and you're just going to take the rough with the smooth. In terms of in general, though, people's views are changing on the work-life balance. And there's there are changes for the better to make sure that people are better supported. How are you evolving as a leader to develop your teams to meet that particular challenge? So end of last year, we put in a policy where nobody should be working on a 45-hour week. And if they are, it's because something's gone wrong. It shouldn't be through bad management. So somebody's forgotten the shit. Oh, can you work on it? It shouldn't. It just shouldn't happen. So we kind of reworked the way our rotas are done and things like that to make sure that people are getting good time off and support that way. And that's had a really beneficial effect, because managers were doing 60, 70 hours a week. Some that was because they.
That's quite normal in hospitality.
It certainly was. But then, so we're looking at, well, why are you doing the 60, 70 hours? Is there a part of the job that you need more coaching with? Do you need more help? Do you need more training? Because you can do, the job should be doable in that length of time. So if it's not, then let's look at why, and trying to kind of respond that way. And so there's no one size fits all. We regularly meet with our management teams, find out where their pressure points are, and try and give them as much support and coaching to get them through that.
What's your favourite part of being a mentor or leader?
Mentor-wise, I think it's where you see somebody who's maybe, I think it's the feeling when, so I had somebody in, quite a well-known local entrepreneur, came in to see me and said, he asked me for some advice, and I thought, what the hell are you asking me for advice? And we sat and we had a conversation, and he said, and he was really appreciative of my time, but I always thought that I would more likely be the one to go to that person for advice. And actually, during the conversation, we had another conversation about something else, and I actually got something out of that where I thought, that's actually, I've been having this question in my head for the last 6 weeks, something I've been struggling with, and I've actually just worked it out by having a conversation with the guy. So I think it's that kind of, that's quite a nice feeling.
That spark you can get.
Yeah.
That ignites your creativity in terms of solving problems.
And then you've at the same time, it's somebody I've never met before, and I've now probably made a friend and somebody that we can share experiences with, and we can share, and that to me is, it's a great byproduct.
The value of your people is clearly very important to you. What does a great employee look like to you?
Turn up.
That's the first thing.
That's the first thing. I mean, it's really bad right now. There's people, you might have 10, 12 interviews in a day and only 3 people turn up, and and it's a sad, it's a sad state of affairs like that. But a good employee is, again, one who's willing to take risks. We are quite happy for our teams to make mistakes. Just don't make them twice. Learn from them. You're allowed to make mistakes, so again, don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to let your personality shine through, and turn up on time. And that's really.
Well, let's talk about your customers. How do you get to know and understand them? And why do you think they come back to you time and time again? Because clearly you have that success.
Yeah, it's probably easier to answer for travel rather than hospitality. I mean, travel-wise, we sit. If you, I think it's a Little Britain where the computer says no. I think that is a lot of people's opinion of a travel agency. Where if we don't sell. We come in, you sit down, you can have a cup of coffee, you can have a glass of wine, you can, and we don't ask you where you want to go on holiday. We ask, we want to find out about you, because if we find out about you, we can then use our experience to then put the right holiday together for you. So, the number of people, wedding planning, generally the man gets left to do the honeymoon. Yeah. The bride will do everything else because she wants it done right. The honeymoon goes to the guy because he needs a job. So, and that's hugely, but that is what we tend to find. So, we want to go to the Maldives. Okay. Why do you want to go to the Maldives? Because it's been in the magazine, everyone loves it. Picture perfect. But then you might find that actually they don't like lying on the beach all day. They would much rather be doing activities. So they've picked something based on what these are. But by understanding them and what they like to do and the kind of food they like to eat and how they generally holiday, we can then say, well, actually, have you thought about this? Mauritius might be better for you. Sri Lanka might, or actually, do you know what? You don't like the sun, so let's have it. And because you get that level of understanding, when they do come back, and you can refer back to the conversation you've had, and you've actually, we're not asking the questions and writing about it, we're actually taking it and understanding the customer. That makes the customer feel valued, because they're not just a number coming in through the door. I've got a customer who he goes to the same hotel, and I know what room number he goes to, and I know what seat on the flight he wants, and if that seat isn't available on the flight, he won't take that flight. And, so, and it's that level of kind of granularity, I think, that people appreciate.
So, as you'll be aware, conscious consumerism is at an all-time high. People are more likely to be driven by a commitment now than at any time probably in the past to making their own purchasing decisions that have positive or social economic impacts for people. Tell us what you're doing as a business owner to embrace that way of doing business.
As in more of a kind of to the planet? Or?
Yeah, all of those things, yeah.
I mean, we've always tried to support local when we can. So, our meat, our fish comes from, so it's a guy that's got his own fishing boat, and it's and he brings our fish. Or he doesn't. If he doesn't bring it in, we don't sell it. We're going through a project at the moment of actually buying, or not quite buying a farm, but going direct to the farmer for our meat, and then butchering it ourselves it's one of our ways of combating rising costs, but it also means that the food miles, it's like 40 miles. Yeah, it's not had journey down to England and then or Bowlby. It's literally down the road. Same with fruit and veg and things like that. Obviously there are times when you have to go further afield. We've always had a kind of try to keep costs low with energy and things like that, so we've gone through the process of reducing the amount we use, reducing the amount of water with the kitchens, and but I don't think that's unique. I think everyone's doing it now through necessity, but I think most of us were doing it before as a sense of kind of social responsibility as well.
What excites you most about the future?
Retiring at 45, I think. That's,
When will you be able to retire?
I think being able to spend, getting to that point of spend time with the family and enjoy, by that time I'll have been in business for 30 years, and to actually look and say, right, that's that 30 years of now, I can now enjoy the next 30 years.
And for listeners, how old are you at the moment?
40.
40, so you've got 5 years.
5 years to do it.
So will we see more businesses added to your portfolio in that 5 years?
I would be surprised if we didn't.
So it's definitely within your 12-month and 5-year plan to get that. Let's talk about you and your different businesses. How can listeners connect with your businesses online or in person?
The easiest way would just be cruholdings.com. That's kind of got all of our business contact details for everything in there. Rather than going listing off the websites for each one individually, that's probably the easiest way to do it.
And they can find out more about you on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, and on the website as well.
Okay. Well, finally, this podcast is about getting to the heart and soul of good business. What's at the heart of your business?
I think, like we've said, people. Without people, you don't have a business, and that's the truth.
Scott Murray, thank you for talking to us on the Good Business Podcast.
Thank you, Drew.